This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Stellantis recalls 1.2 million vehicles. Software glitch alert. Stellantis, the parent company of popular auto brands like Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and Dodge, is issuing a recall for nearly 1.2 million vehicles in the United States and Canada. The recall is due to a software glitch that can disable the rear-view cameras in the affected vehicles. Models included in the recall are the Jeep Compass, Grand Cherokee, Wagoneer, and Grand Wagoneer SUVs from the 2022 and 2023 model years, as well as Ram ProMaster vans from 2022 and 2023. The recall also covers Ram 3500 chassis cabs, Ram 1500 and 2500 pickups from 2022, Chrysler Pacifica minivans, and Jeep Grand Cherokee L SUVs from 2021 through 2023, and Dodge Durango SUVs from 2021 and 2022. Stellantis will address the issue through an online software update that some vehicles have already received. Owners will also receive recall notices in the mail. While there have been no reported injuries or crashes related to this issue, Stellantis is urging owners to follow the recall instructions. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Federal versus state. Iowa's immigration law overruled. A federal judge in Iowa has temporarily blocked the enforcement of a new state law that criminalizes the entry of individuals into the state after being deported or denied entry into the country. The law, signed by Governor Kim Reynolds in April, aimed to address the issue of illegal immigration by making it a state offense for people to re-enter Iowa after being deported or denied entry. However, the judge ruled that the law conflicts with federal immigration law and is therefore unconstitutional. The judge's decision came after the U.S. Department of Justice and civil rights organizations filed a lawsuit against the state, arguing that federal immigration law supersedes the state law. The judge found that the law is preempted by federal law, and that it creates an untenable dichotomy between federal and state law in an area where the Supreme Court has recognized that the United States must speak with a single, harmonious voice. The judge also noted that the law omits key safeguards for immigrants, including the possibility of deportation and the potential for family separation. He wrote that the law is untenable, and that it would cause irreparable harm to individuals who are lawfully in the country. The state of Iowa and its Attorney General have announced their intention to appeal the decision. The Governor and Attorney General have criticized the Biden administration for failing to enforce federal immigration laws, which they claim has led to a surge in illegal immigration at the U.S.-Mexico border. The decision is seen as a significant victory for civil rights groups and immigrant advocates who have long argued that immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility and that state laws like Iowa's are unconstitutional. The ruling is also seen as a blow to the Trump administration's efforts to crack down on illegal immigration, as it highlights the limitations of state-level immigration enforcement and the need for a comprehensive federal approach to immigration reform. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Senate clash over bump stock ban blocked by GOP Senator Ricketts. A bill to restore a Trump-era ban on bump stocks, accessories that enable semi-automatic weapons to shoot at a rapid pace, was blocked by a Republican senator. The bill was proposed by Senator Martin Heinrich, a Democrat from New Mexico, who requested a vote under unanimous consent, a procedure where a measure passes unless there is an objection. Senator Pete Ricketts, a Nebraska Republican, objected to the bill. Heinrich argued that there is no legitimate use for a bump stock and that they should be banned. He referred to a Supreme Court ruling last week which struck down the ban on bump stocks. Ricketts dismissed the bill as part of the Democrats' summer of show votes and accused it of being about banning as many firearm accessories as possible. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, criticized Republicans for opposing the ban, pointing out that they had supported it during the Trump administration. Senator Susan Collins, a Republican from Maine, was the only Republican to co-sponsor the bump stock legislation. The Supreme Court's conservative justices ruled that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, firearms, and explosives exceeded its authority in prohibiting bump stocks, stating that a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock is not the same as a machine gun. The ban had been implemented in 2019 following the mass shooting in Las Vegas, where the attacker used semi-automatic rifles equipped with bump stocks. President Biden called on Congress to pass a ban on bump stocks in response to the Supreme Court's decision, stating that Americans should not have to live in fear of such devastating incidents. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Justice for Club Q. Life sentences for Anderson Aldrich. The mass shooter who killed 5 people at a Colorado LGBTQ nightclub in 2022 has been sentenced to multiple life terms in prison. Anderson Aldrich pleaded guilty to 50 federal hate crimes and received 55 life sentences. He also pleaded guilty to 74 hate crimes and firearms violations, resulting in an additional 190 years in prison. Aldrich, who identifies as non-binary, entered the plea as part of a deal to avoid the death penalty. He had already pleaded guilty to state charges and is currently serving 5 life sentences related to the Club Q shooting. The sentencing was witnessed by families of the victims and survivors of the attack. U.S. District Court Judge Charlotte Sweeney emphasized the strength of the community and condemned Aldrich's hatred. Prosecutors revealed that Aldrich had visited the nightclub multiple times before the attack and harbored hatred towards police, LGBT individuals, and minorities. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Queens residents capture suspected rapist Christian Inga. A group of nearly a dozen Queens residents took matters into their own hands when they recognized a man wanted in connection with the sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl. The residents stopped the man on the street and held him until police arrived. The suspect, Christian Inga, 25, was treated for minor injuries sustained while resisting the crowd before being released into police custody. He was charged with first-degree rape, robbery, kidnapping, and sex abuse, along with several other crimes. The incident occurred at 108th and Waldron Streets in Corona at around 1 a.m. on Tuesday. Police Commissioner Edward Caban expressed confidence that the perpetrator is now in custody. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Secret Service agent robbed at gunpoint near Biden's LA fundraiser. A Secret Service agent was robbed at gunpoint in Tustin, California, on the same night President Biden attended a fundraiser in Los Angeles. The incident occurred around 9:30 p.m. on Saturday at a residential community in Orange County. The agent's bag was taken at gunpoint, and shots were fired during the robbery. The agent discharged their service weapon, but it is unclear if the assailants were hit. The agent was not injured. It is unknown whether the agent was specifically assigned to protect President Biden or another individual, as Secret Service agents protect the president's immediate family and former presidents. The Tustin Police Department is seeking assistance from the public in identifying the suspect or suspects. A 2004 to 2006 silver Infiniti FX35 or a similar vehicle was spotted leaving the scene. The investigation is ongoing, and no arrests have been made. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Polls show Biden and Trump in dead heat as debate looms. The latest NPR-PBS News Marist poll shows that President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are tied with 49% support each among registered voters nationally. This is relatively unchanged since last month's poll and indicates that the presidential election remains tightly contested. The survey also found that 9% of voters have not yet decided who they will vote for, while 25% have a good idea but could still change their minds. The first televised debate between Biden and Trump is set to take place next week, with 60% of survey respondents saying they plan to watch it. The poll highlights that younger voters and non-white voters are more likely to say their vote could still change. Additionally, Biden is gaining support among independent voters, going from 42% in last month's survey to 50%. Trump, on the other hand, is doing better among white voters, as well as those who generally disapprove of both candidates. Amongst specific issues, respondents identified inflation, preserving democracy, and immigration as top concerns. Comparing Trump and Biden, voters believe Trump would be better at handling the economy and immigration, while they trust Biden more on preserving democracy and abortion. Overall, both candidates still have work to do in convincing undecided voters and mobilizing their bases as the election approaches. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Boeing under fire. Whistleblower exposes safety concerns. A current employee of Boeing has come forward as a whistleblower, alleging that the company is cutting corners and not properly tracking parts that are non-conforming or do not meet design standards. The employee, identified as Sam Mohawk, a quality assurance inspector for Boeing, claims that these parts are sometimes being used in newly built airplanes, including the 737 MAX. The whistleblower also stated that supervisors have instructed him to conceal this information from the FAA and that he is facing retaliation. Boeing is currently reviewing the claims made by the whistleblower. This comes as Boeing's CEO, David Calhoun, is set to testify on Capitol Hill about the company's safety culture. Senator Richard Blumenthal is expected to question Calhoun on the progress he has made in turning the company around, and accuse the company of deflecting blame and prioritizing shareholders over safety. This is the latest in a series of whistleblower allegations against Boeing, which have accused the company of prioritizing profits over safety and retaliating against employees who speak up. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Amazon faces $5.9 million fine for violating California labor laws. Amazon has been fined $5.9 million for violating California labor laws. The California Department of Industrial Relations found that Amazon failed to provide written notice of quotas to employees at 2 warehouses in Moreno Valley and Redlands. The investigation revealed over 59,000 infringements of California's warehouse quotas law. The law requires employers to disclose productivity targets to employees and prohibits unrealistic quotas that hinder employees from taking mandated meal and rest breaks or using the restroom. The investigation found that Amazon failed to provide written notice of quotas to employees, exposing them to increased pressure and higher injury rates. Amazon argued that it did not need a quota system due to its peer-to-peer evaluation system, but the regulatory body found that the company's workforce was still subjected to unwritten quotas. The fine serves as a reminder to employers of their obligation to comply with California labor laws and provide employees with written notice of any quotas. Amazon has appealed the citations and stated that it does not have fixed quotas. This is not the first time Amazon has faced criticism for its work pace and workplace safety issues. The company is currently under investigation by federal labor regulators and congressional committees. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. South Fork fire forces evacuations in Ruidoso. Red Cross responds. Residents in the village of Ruidoso, New Mexico, were forced to evacuate after a rapidly growing wildfire was discovered west of town on Monday. The fire, named the South Fork Fire, grew to more than 5,000 acres within hours and was 0% contained as of Monday night. Multiple evacuation orders were issued, urging residents to leave immediately and avoid trying to pack valuables or defend their property. The Red Cross set up an emergency shelter for those displaced by the fire, and highways leading to the town were closed. No deaths have been reported, but the number of structures lost is currently unknown. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Mavericks NBA Finals journey and Kyrie Irving's message to fans. After the Dallas Mavericks season came to an end on Monday in a 106-88 loss in a Game 5 final of the NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics, who are now champions, star guard Kyrie Irving took to social media to post an encouraging message to fans. Irving wrote that Mavs fans should keep your head up high and be proud of the team's run in the postseason. The 32-year-old performed well below his standards in 3 games in Boston, combining to shoot just 18 of 53 on the road in the finals. The Mavs were playing in the NBA Finals for the first time since 2011, so fans are certainly hoping that it won't be another 13 years before the team reaches this stage again. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. South Texas braces for potential flash floods as tropical system advances. In a recent development, a flood watch has been issued in South Texas as a tropical system brews in the Gulf. As per reports from the San Antonio Express News, the National Weather Service has issued a flood watch for areas south and east of San Antonio due to heavy rainfall expected this week. The system, known as Potential Tropical Cyclone 1, is currently churning in the southwest Gulf with 40 miles per hour winds. It is expected to continue moving slowly to the north over the southwest Gulf of Mexico. It is likely to bring torrential rain and possible flash flooding to the region, so it is advised that residents stay alert and be prepared for changing weather conditions. The flood watch is set to remain in effect until further notice, with authorities closely monitoring the situation. Stay tuned for updates on this developing story. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Amazon workers join forces with Teamsters in major union milestone. Amazon labor union members have voted overwhelmingly in favor of affiliating with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, with a resounding 98.3% approval rate. The Teamsters, founded in 1903, is one of the largest labor unions in the U.S. This decision grants ALU workers access to a wealth of resources as they pursue a contract with Amazon. The approximately 5,500 Amazon warehouse workers in Staten Island, New York will now be represented by the ALU International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 1, overseeing Amazon warehouse workers across New York City's 5 boroughs. Teamsters General President Sean M. O'Brien expressed enthusiasm for the collaboration, stating that the Teamsters and ALU will fight fearlessly to ensure Amazon workers secure decent jobs and safe working conditions. The affiliation provides Staten Island union organizers with increased financial resources and the Teamsters substantial resources and organizational prowess. Amazon has been trying to block unionization efforts across its warehouses, and JFK 8 remains the only warehouse that has successfully voted to unionize thus far. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Putin's two-day summit in North Korea. Sanctions, munitions, and a multipolar world. Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in North Korea for a two-day summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for his first visit in 24 years. In an op-ed piece in North Korean state media, Putin thanked North Korea for supporting his actions in Ukraine and expressed his appreciation for their firm support. The two countries plan to cooperate closely to overcome U.S.-led sanctions and oppose what Putin described as Western ambitions to hinder the establishment of a multipolar world order. They also aim to develop trade and payment systems that are not controlled by the West and expand cooperation in areas such as tourism, culture, and education. This visit comes amid growing concerns about an arms arrangement between North Korea and Russia, in which Pyongyang provides Moscow with munitions in exchange for economic assistance and technology transfers. U.S. and South Korean officials accuse North Korea of providing Russia with military equipment for use in Ukraine, violating UN Security Council sanctions. Tensions on the Korean peninsula are high, with both Kim's weapons tests and military exercises involving the U.S., South Korea, and Japan intensifying. After North Korea, Putin is also scheduled to visit Vietnam for trade talks, which has been criticized by the United States. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. South Korea responds to North Korean border incursions amid rising tensions. South Korean soldiers fired warning shots after North Korean troops briefly crossed the border for the second time this month. The incident occurred on Tuesday morning, with around 20 to 30 North Korean soldiers crossing the military demarcation line while engaged in construction work. The South Korean military responded with warning shots and broadcasts, prompting the North Korean soldiers to retreat back to their side of the border. This is the second time this month that North Korean troops have crossed the border, with the first incident occurring on June 11th. The South Korean military has observed increased North Korean construction activities along the border, including the installation of suspected anti-tank barriers, road reinforcement, and mine planting. The work has continued despite several explosions caused by mines that killed or injured North Korean soldiers. The South Korean military believes the North Korean soldiers did not intentionally cross the border and did not return fire. The border area is heavily fortified with overgrown trees and plants that may have obscured the visibility of North Korean soldiers, causing them to cross the border. The South Korean military is closely monitoring North Korean military activities in the frontline area and is guarding against accidental situations. Tensions between the two countries have been rising, with recent engagements in psychological warfare and the disregard of a 2018 military agreement to reduce tensions. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Thailand leads Southeast Asia with same-sex marriage legalization. Thailand's Senate has overwhelmingly approved a bill to legalize same-sex marriage, making the country the first in Southeast Asia to enact such a law. Despite Thailand's reputation for acceptance and inclusivity, the LGBTQ+ community has faced discrimination due to conservative values and resistance to change among government officials and state agencies. Taiwan and Nepal are the only other places in Asia that have legalized same-sex marriage. The bill, which grants full legal, financial, and medical rights to marriage partners of any gender, passed its final reading in the Senate with an overwhelming majority vote of 130 out of 152 members in attendance. It now requires the endorsement of King Maha Vajiralongkorn and publication in the Government Gazette before it becomes effective. The passing of the bill has been celebrated as a triumph for justice and human rights. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. U.S. backs Philippines in South China Sea clash amid rising tensions with China. The United States has reiterated its obligation to defend the Philippines after a recent clash between the two countries in the South China Sea. The incident occurred at the Second Thomas Shoal, where a small Filipino Navy contingent is stationed on a grounded warship. The Chinese Coast Guard, Navy, and suspected militia ships have been closely watching the area for years, leading to a series of confrontations. The U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, Kurt Campbell, discussed the situation with his Philippine counterpart, Maria Teresa Lazaro, and reaffirmed that the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty extends to armed attacks on Philippine armed forces, public vessels, or aircraft anywhere in the South China Sea. The treaty obligates Washington and Manila to help defend each other in major conflicts. The Philippine government task force overseeing the territorial disputes condemned the Chinese actions, describing them as dangerous maneuvers, including ramming and towing, which disrupted a routine effort to transport supplies to the Filipino personnel. The Chinese Coast Guard, however, claimed that the Philippines was responsible for the incident, saying that a Philippine vessel ignored China's warnings and approached a Chinese vessel in an unprofessional manner. Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. stated that his country's armed forces would resist China's dangerous and reckless behavior, which he said contravenes China's statements of good faith and decency. He emphasized that the Philippines will exert its utmost to protect its territorial integrity, sovereignty, and sovereign rights. The incident highlights the ongoing tensions between the Philippines and China in the South China Sea, where China has been increasingly assertive in pressing its claim to virtually the entire sea. The U.S. has deployed forces to patrol the waters to promote freedom of navigation and overflight, moves that have angered China. China has been increasingly assertive in pressing its claim to the South China Sea, leading to conflicts with neighboring countries. Ultimately, the dispute raises concerns about the potential for a larger conflict between the United States and China. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Hochstein's diplomatic challenge, easing Israel-Hezbollah tensions in Lebanon. Amos Hochstein, a senior advisor to President Biden, has met with senior Lebanese officials in Beirut to seek a diplomatic solution as tensions escalate between Israel and Hezbollah along the Israel-Lebanon border. The conflict has been ongoing for 8 months, with both sides engaging in attacks that have resulted in civilian casualties and displaced over 150,000 people. While Hezbollah is a powerful force with better training and weaponry than in 2006, military planners in Israel fear a similar assault to the one launched by Hamas in Gaza in October. Hezbollah's arsenal, including drones, could potentially overwhelm Israel's aerial defenses. However, a major escalation is concerning for Hezbollah as well, as it would further harm the already struggling Lebanese economy. Mediators for the sides are working towards de-escalation and a diplomatic resolution to prevent a wider war. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Rising temperatures and tragedy. The impact of climate change on Hajj pilgrimage. More than 300 Egyptians have died from heat-related illnesses during the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia, according to diplomats. The majority of deaths were attributed to the extreme heat, with only one person dying from injuries sustained in a crowd crush. In addition to the Egyptian deaths, 60 Jordanians have also died during the pilgrimage. The total reported number of deaths from various countries now stands at 577. Climate change is increasingly affecting the Hajj pilgrimage, with rising temperatures making the rituals more challenging. Over 1.8 million pilgrims participated in this year's Hajj, with 1.6 million coming from abroad. The presence of unregistered pilgrims also contributed to the high death toll. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Putin pledges Russia-North Korea alliance amid U.S. tensions. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has vowed to build trade and security systems with North Korea that are not controlled by the West. This pledge was made during his visit to North Korea, his first in 24 years. Putin expressed his commitment to constructing uncontrolled by the West trade and security systems with North Korea, emphasizing the need for a security architecture in Eurasia that is equal and indivisible. He also thanked North Korea for its support of Russia's ongoing military operation in Ukraine and vowed to stand by Pyongyang in the face of U.S. pressure, blackmail, and military threats. The Russian delegation for the visit includes high-ranking officials such as Andrei Belousov, defense minister, and Sergei Lavrov, foreign minister. The visit will consist of one-on-one discussions between the two leaders, a gala concert, state reception, honor guards, document signings, and a press statement. Putin's commitment to enhancing cooperation with North Korea is seen as a strategic move to increase Russia's influence in the region and counterbalance the United States' presence. The Russian leader has also expressed his willingness to mediate between North Korea and the United States to ease tensions and find a diplomatic solution. This development further highlights the complex geopolitical dynamics and power struggle surrounding the Korean peninsula and underscores the need for diplomacy and negotiations to resolve the ongoing crisis. This is the news for today, Tuesday, June 18, 2024. Anti-China blacklist looms. Washington, D.C. trade groups on edge. The threat of an anti-China congressional blacklist is causing concern among trade groups in Washington, D.C. The list, which would target companies with alleged ties to human rights abuses in China, is part of a larger effort to hold the Chinese government accountable. Trade groups worry that being blacklisted could result in sanctions or other negative consequences for their members. The possibility of being named on the list has prompted trade groups to ramp up their efforts to show their commitment to ethical business practices. Critics argue that the blacklist could harm U.S.-China relations and have a negative impact on American companies doing business in China. As tensions between the United States and China continue to escalate, the fate of the blacklist remains uncertain.